welcome to Mindfulness of Doom, a weekly podcast about life, peaceful living, and existential dread. You're not lost. Everyone's faking it, and the purpose of life is, enjoy the show.
Welcome to episode 5 of the Mindfulness of Doom podcast. Brian here and my faithful partner, Cory.
I don't know how faithful I am, man. You're putting a lot of trust in me.
Of course I do.
That's a lot of pressure.
Well, we're co-hosts. Imagine doing a podcast by yourself. Imagine...
Yeah, let's not do the anxiety thing again today. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so this is episode 5, and today we're talking about fear.
Yeah, and it is almost Halloween. And we're here at my home about an hour prior to hosting a really huge Halloween party at the same time that a tropical storm is moving through Miami. So there will be sounds of rain.
Ah, shit, man.
Yeah, there will be people will be getting wet on their way here if the weather does not deter them from coming at all. What else could possibly go wrong tonight?
Well, you know, there's all sorts of things that could happen. We could go through all the fears and find out what kind of fear do you want to talk about, man? There's a whole bunch of it. There's, you know, the fear of dying. I mean, that's kind of our thing. But
yeah,
like,
that's a huge one.
There's also like fear-based behaviors. You know, like running away from, you know, a dude with a knife, or you know, racism or nationalism. Fear-based behaviors.
Nationalism is a huge one.
Marketing. You know,
marketing. You know what? Fear-based marketing is, dare I say it, the most effective marketing tactic.
Bunch of assholes.
Well, you know, what are you going to do? We happen to be dressed in costume tonight. If you are watching the video...
Yeah, man, what's up with your getup? Digging the costume.
Yeah, so I'll stand up for a second so you can see what this says completely.
Do you know what's the worst?
Yeah.
What's the worst, Brian?
When the condom breaks.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's terrible.
That's never ideal.
No, it's.
I don't think anybody on that side of the equation enjoys that.
It's the worst. You know what else is the worst?
What's that?
When you stub your pinky toe in the middle of the night.
That does suck. I got one for you.
Yeah. What's the worst?
When you're walking around barefoot and you step on a Lego.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
When was the last time you had Legos in your house?
I currently do have Legos in my house.
I'm so jealous. Until you step on one, and then I'm not jealous.
Right. I try to keep them together and not on the floor.
Fear is such a weird thing. It seems to be something that it kind of drives a lot of your behaviors. I think there's a lot of things that prevents us from going out and having a good time sometimes, when it's just like, oh, I don't want to go get in the ocean. There's sharks in there. You know,
yeah.
I don't want to go golfing. It's a thunderstorm. And these are irrational fears. You know, swinging giant metal sticks in the air, tempting fate. I
used to live near a golf course, and I would go walking around the perimeter of the course frequently, and I was always afraid of getting struck in the head by a golf ball.
I don't think that's an irrational fear. I think that's possible.
It is, but what are the odds that it would actually happen?
Not high.
Exactly.
A lot higher than getting eaten by a shark or actually struck by lightning.
Yeah, and these are very strong fears that people have.
Do you know how many fatalities a year for the whole planet there are for shark attacks?
No, how many?
5.
5 people a year get
for the entire
killed by sharks.
Planet. Like, that's it. I mean, yeah, it sucks, and a lot of people do get bit, but they walk out just fine, because most of the time sharks aren't interested in human flesh.
Yeah, we're not very tasty.
Yeah, too much tin and aluminum and mercury in our blood.
Yep. I almost made an Ask My Wife joke.
Is she doing a vampire theme for Halloween?
No, she's dressing up as a Victoria's Secret angel. And you know what's the worst?
What's the worst?
When you find out, after you've already planned your costume, that Victoria's Secret uses prison labor.
Oh.
Yeah, that sucks.
Did this podcast just become political?
Almost.
We'll have to look that up. We'll link some news articles to that in the description, because okay. I'm interested to have that argument with you.
Yeah, that's great. So we'll post that in the show notes. Let's stick to fear. There's really nothing fearful about Victoria's Secret that I can think of.
What are you afraid of, Brian?
If I really had to think about it, I'm afraid of needles. I have an irrational fear of needles.
Is it irrational?
It's irrational, like email. There's a dash in there, right? Did I get that right?
Sure.
Yeah. It's like electronic
whatever gets you to go on to the next segment.
It's like, you think about the whole rationalist movement of the 1930s, and then once they put it on the internet, it became the irrational movement.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Fun fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should have some irrationalists.
So when you say needles, like you mean like getting shots, or you mean like just like getting stabbed in general?
Yeah, no, like getting shots. Like one of my least favorite things to do is to go to the doctor and like knowing full well that I'm going to get a shot in my arm, if I need to get tetanus or some other vaccine to go travel somewhere. And the entire time it'll be days before I know I need to go, and I'll have anxiety building up about it. And then I get into the waiting room and I have anxiety building up even more, and my heart starts pounding and my forehead starts to sweat. And then I get into the doctor's office. The doctor is really nice, and he's, oh, hey, it's just going to be
Don't worry, son. It won't hurt.
It won't hurt at all. And I'm thinking, you're such an asshole. What a liar, right?
I've got a lifesaver for you in the drawer, regardless of whether you cried or not.
Right,
I'm
that's
give it
creepy.
to you.
That is so creepy. And you know what?
Did your pediatrician have that? Like every time I went to a doctor when I was a kid, he had lifesavers ready for me. It was awesome.
No, my pediatrician had Little Mermaid Band-Aids, and I refused the Little Mermaid Band-Aid when I was a child because I thought it was girly.
I would refuse it on the sheer principle that I didn't receive some sort of, trade and, pain for candy.
Right. There were lollipops and things too. I used to get the little, those little dum-dums.
Oh, so they did have something.
Yeah, but they were...
The dum-dums are like, those are like the really weak ass, like, that's the lazy man's candy. It's just like...
Yeah, you could take care of those in one bite, but you know what? They had the root beer flavor. And anytime I would get my hands on the root beer flavor, I would actually pick through the jar of lollipops to find all of the root beer flavored dum-dums. And I would hoard them in my
mined
pocket.
out all the best flavors.
I did. And
you just sent me back to my childhood when I got yelled at by my sister because I had gone through the entire box of Captain Crunch berries and mined out all the Crunch berries. And she goes to eat it and she's like, there's no Crunch berries. She was so angry.
Did she actually sound like that?
Yeah, anytime I imitate my family members, I make the ridiculous voices because I have no idea how to do imitations. Mm-hmm. Like when my mom asked me, when I was 7, she's like, Cory, would you like to try baseball? And I'm like, yeah, sure, Mom, I'll do baseball. And then it sucked. And so I got out of it. And then she, Cory, how would you like to try soccer? This is how my mom sounds in my head.
Yes.
She doesn't actually sound like that. My mom's actually quite lovely.
Right.
But
and she might be listening right now. So if you're with us, hello, Cory's mom.
Hi, Mom.
So the fear of needles, I would be sweating and having these mild panic attacks while sitting on that, that cushion thing with the crinkly paper on it.
Right.
That was itself was an uncomfortable experience. And then they would the nurse would come out with this metal tray with the paper on it that also crinkled, and all of the things would be nice to eat on it.
All these mildly displeasing things to you contribute to your fear of needles?
It's the whole experience.
Okay.
It's not,
so what if like somebody just, you didn't even know you were going to the doctor, but your wife was like, oh, he needs to go get his booster shot. And then she just pops out of the closet one day, goes, ha! And stabs you in the arm.
I don't think that would be so bad.
You think that would be better?
Yeah, if I wasn't expecting it. What's really funny?
So it's like the buildup is really the thing that's causing all the anxiety.
Because once you get the shot in your arm, it's like you'll be sitting there looking the other direction.
How visceral is your reaction? Like, are you like physically moving away from the needle?
My muscles are tense. I know to sit still, right? And I try to relax. I breathe. And the needle goes in, and I have no idea the needle has gone in. And the needle comes out, and I have no idea the needle has come out. And the doctor says, oh, it's over.
Oh, so you just blacked out.
There's no pain. You just really don't feel the needle.
So what's your real problem here, man? It sounds like you're not afraid of needles at all.
No, but it
sounds like you don't even experience the needle.
When you know that some form of physical injury is coming,
okay, so,
and you're putting yourself in that situation.
All right, so I have a question for you then.
Yeah.
How do you feel about guns? About bullets? Are you afraid of bullets?
No, I'm not.
I mean, bullets are just fast-moving needles.
No, bullets will freaking kill you, bro. But I'm not afraid of them. It's not a it's not a paradigm for me. But I'll tell you what. When I was in college, I used to fence. I was part of the fencing team.
Wait a minute. You're afraid of needles.
Yes.
And for fun, you decided, I'm going to go get a giant 3-foot needle and have someone else with a 3-foot needle. And we're going to try to skewer each other.
Because I love swords. Swords are the coolest thing ever.
I mean,
and you're going to get hit. And when you're not expecting it, it's fine. I never go into a sword fight knowing when I'm going to get hit.
So you're not afraid of being skewered. You're just afraid of going to the doctor.
I think that's what it is. I think I'm afraid to go to the doctor.
I'm glad we're getting to the heart of the matter for you, man. We're really making a breakthrough.
Wow.
I'm sorry, but our time is up, and we're gonna have to come back next week. And I'm also increasing your rates.
Okay, well, send me an invoice.
Yeah, so like you're not afraid of like getting stabbed yourself. What about like using needles on other things?
You mean like if I were stranded on a deserted island and I had to just eat rats or something? Like would I cook and skewer a bunch of rats or something?
The rats. I mean, I know you're a vegetarian, but I imagine you would switch to omnivorism if you had to.
The appropriate term for that is carnism.
Oh,
yeah.
No, carnism is just all meat, right?
No, carnism is
like a metasaurus.
It's a belief system.
That's what I learned from Jurassic Park.
Carnism is a belief system.
Vegisaurus and Metasaurus.
Those
are technical terms.
Involves the selective positioning of certain animals as food objects and other animals as not food objects.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't mean that we don't eat vegetables and fruits and stuff, but we're selectively choosing our meats.
So speaking of rat meat, the Chinese zodiac, right? Everybody's familiar with that. And they're like, oh, what year are you? Like, oh, I'm the year of the ox, or I'm the year of the dragon. Well, there's 12 animals in that cycle. I believe this comes from the Jataka Tales, which I could be wrong on this, but I think it's from the Jataka Tales, which is they're non-canon Buddhist stories that they tell children. And one of the stories was like, oh, Buddha gathered all the animals together, and he said, you know what? I'm going to start the turning of the Dharma. I'm going to turn the wheel. And I want all the animals to be there.
When you say non-canon, you're like referring, these are like filler episodes of like the main book, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like you got like in Christianity, everything that's in the Bible is canon. But there's a bunch of other Christian texts that didn't make it into the Bible that they decided were not in line with their teachings, or they didn't particularly agree with them, and so they left them out. And so,
but they're studied anyway. In some
scholars study them, and people who go out of their way to read that kind of like. I'm not entirely sure about this. I think there's a book of Mary Magdalene that's not in the Bible, and I know that they've discovered a book that they believe to be the Gospel of Judas.
Yes.
Which is interesting because most of it's torn up and it's very old and most of it is rotted away. But they talk about him as not being a villain, but as Jesus' right-hand man. And Jesus goes, hey, look, buddy, I know what's coming. I need you to do me a solid. I need you to turn me in. And it plants him as like the ultimate, like, I've got to throw myself under the bus for all this to happen kind of a story.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
that
pretty...
really puts a different spin on things.
It does. And I don't really know how much of this is accurate. It's just I've heard that there's a document that they believe might be his.
Right. So they discovered it. So our friends over at They Laboratories once again have made this remarkable discovery of ancient religious.
They Laboratories. Those guys are great. They come up periodically in the podcast. Good to hear from you guys.
So when we actually do find at least what looks like to be the most accurate information that we can find in media that is on the internet, we'll post a link in our show notes.
And by accurate, we mean a cursory Google search.
Right. Because unless, of course, you're supporting us on Patreon and we're actually able to devote more time to the research.
Yes. Patreon members do get added bonus links and content from us. And if you are interested in supporting the show, you may check us out at patreon.com/mindfulnessofdoom.
That's the one, patreon.com/mindfulnessofdoom.
So before I was so rudely distracted and tangentialized in my story, we were talking about the Chinese Buddhist zodiac. Yeah. I'm trying to educate you here, man.
I'm listening now.
Come on, man. I was in the Seattle 7.
What does that mean?
That's me and 6 other guys. You know, I used to be a roadie for Metallica, man. Like I got some authoritative credentials.
Are you referring to your personality in the dude costume right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, so for our listeners on the podcast who cannot see our costumes, maybe it's worth mentioning.
Oh yeah, you
what
never
we're
asked me
wearing.
about my costume.
Yeah,
you
so
jerk.
Corey is dressed as the dude from The Big Lebowski, and
hey man, let me tell you something about the dude, man. I'm the dude, so that's what you call me. You're Mr. Lemmerman. I'm the dude. That or his dudeness or El Duderino, if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
And and my costume here is it's just a white T-shirt that says, "You know what's the worst?" And I'm peppered in sticky notes that have various responses to that question.
You know, I forgot for a second that the podcast listeners aren't omniscient and can't perceive all.
Yeah. So one thing, one of the sticky notes says, when your cat vomits a hairball on your fresh bed sheets.
I just read the one on your shoulder that says, "You know what's the worst? When your penis dips into the toilet water."
Oh, it's terrible. I hate that.
Yeah, I mean, for our well-endowed friends out there, I'm sure that's an issue. But I think for most of us,
guys,
with proper mindfulness technique, I am pretty sure you can avoid that from ever happening.
Yeah, or when you burn your tongue on hot coffee and you can't taste anything for 3 days. It's terrible.
You know what they call that in Japan?
A mild inconvenience?
No, they call it the tongue of the cat.
The tongue of the cat?
Yeah, because when you burn your tongue, it gets all grainy. It's like a cat's tongue.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It does feel like that.
Okay, so that's my segue. We're talking about Asia, and it brings me back to the Chinese zodiac.
Back to the Chinese zodiac.
The Chinese zodiac that has,
We're getting laughter from our live studio audience right now.
I wanted to finish the dude's story, man.
Yeah, dude, go
Were you
right on
listening
it.
to the dude's story?
Get to it, bro.
Yeah. So the in the Chinese, what were we talking about this? Oh yeah, rats. You were skewering rats.
Rats, and I'm totally okay with this. I used to handle meat on a regular basis before I was vegetarian.
Yes, and he skewered rats on a daily basis, which is what brought us to talking about the Chinese zodiac. I believe this actually might be pre-Buddhist. It might have been something that Buddhism incorporated into their culture when they, went and convinced everybody by force to become Buddhists. But they didn't prevent them from staying their own religions. They just had to be Buddhist in addition to their normal native cultures, which is probably why Buddhism succeeded so well into the modern times, because that was much more palatable to people than what other religions did.
Yeah.
And,
So you can keep your religion and you can be Buddhist.
Yeah. One of the stories they tell is that when the Buddha started turning the wheel of the Dharma and starting the turning of the world, right? He collected all the animals together and says, "I need to create a calendar. So I need all the animals to show up, and I'll give all of you a year." They get him a year, right?
That's very generous.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for procrastinating animals.
Hey, man, the Buddha's full of compassion.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
All the animals get together and they're like, all right, we got to trek up to meet the Buddha on this day. And so the most industrious of the animals is the ox. So he starts off first, and he's the front of the pack. And then at a certain point, they cross a river, and they get to the river, and there's the rat is there. And the rat goes, "Excuse me, Mr. Ox, I'm so small, and I have a hard time crossing the river. Can I ride across on your head?" And the ox says, yeah, sure, okay. He's a very compassionate being, very hard worker. And, he understands he can help out. So he brings the rat across the river, and all the other animals are crossing the river. But at the end of the river, the rat just doesn't jump off the ox's head, because the rat is very clever and decides, I'm just going to let the ox do all the work. And then when he got right up to the finish line, the rat jumped off the head and was first across, which is why the rat is the first year in the cycle of the Chinese zodiac.
Fascinating.
And the ox is second.
Fascinating.
So here's where the interesting thing about the rat is that if you notice in the Chinese zodiac, there is no cat. There's a tiger.
There is a tiger.
But there's no cat.
Tigers don't really waste their time going after rats.
Now, the reason there is no cat is because the rat was very clever and realized that the cat would be a problem. So the day they were telling everybody what day it was going to be on, the rat told the cat that it was going to be the following day. And so the cat, like the lazy thing that it is, lays around and sleeps in and misses the procession, and he is late and isn't able to get a spot on the zodiac. And this is why, for all of eternity after that, the cat chases the rat, because he's pissed off.
Yeah, and I have a story about that. I was speaking about like fears and phobias. I learned.
Did you learn something about the Chinese zodiac?
I learned something. Well, no, I learned something about rats and how people can be afraid of them. I didn't know this was a thing, but we mentioned in episode 2 our cat Dipstick, who effectively shat all over our bedroom. Well, before we moved into this place, in our last place, we're in this little cottage, and it's maybe 1 or 2 in the morning, and we're laying in bed, and I hear just outside on our porch this squealing, like, wee, wee, wee. And I wake up, and what is going on?
Was one of your roommates trying to get in the house again?
Well, considering that a rat could be a roommate, I
Did the rat live in your house?
Apparently.
It was your roommate. Was it paying rent?
It was not paying rent.
Kill it.
I flip on the lights and I go to look and there's Dipstick with a rat in his mouth, dude. And I go, oh my God, Naomi, Dipstick has a rat. And I try to chase Dipstick, and Dipstick evades my attack.
Is Naomi around? I want to get her opinion on this.
No, I
story.
think Naomi is getting changed conveniently right now, and she's not a part of the podcast.
Great, go.
Tell
your story.
So, Naomi, Dipstick went under the bed. He went under the bed, and the rat is squealing. Wee, wee, wee. And Naomi's like, what happened? Dipstick has a rat. Get out of the bed. I have to lift the bed to get the cat to get rid of the rat. What? Dipstick has...
That's a lot for someone to internalize in 1 second.
Well, it escalated to...
I'm going to give you a bunch of instructions really fast and not give you a chance to listen or understand that you're getting instructions.
Yeah, so there I am panicking. Oh my God, the cat's going to kill a rat. And my compassion for the rat, I wanted to save the rat from the cat. And at the same time, Naomi was like, what? There's a rat? Oh my God, there's a rat!
Your impressions of your spouse are way better than mine of my relatives.
Yeah. This is more of an episode on impressions than it is about fears. Yes. But I discovered in that evening that...
I can do a good Patrick impression from SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, go for it.
Hey, SpongeBob.
I discovered in that evening that my wife has a fear of rats, and she wouldn't go near the thing. So I lifted up the bed. I managed to catch the rat in a cup, and I gently brought it outside. And as things go, when cats catch small mammals, they typically grab them by the neck and oftentimes puncture the trachea of the small mammal. I'm not sure if the rat survived, but I brought it outside.
This is gruesome.
And I left it there in the cup to be on its merry way, and it didn't leave the cup.
This is ideal for our Halloween episode.
It is. Well, this is why we've gone
blood and gore.
We've gone to the lengths of painting rat blood all over the walls and doorposts of our home just for our party.
I didn't notice that when I walked in.
Yeah.
And now I'm slightly perturbed.
You'll notice the bed sheets hanging from the walls over there, just covered in sanguine material.
So this is a recent story. You know what else I'm afraid of, Brian?
What?
Cockroaches.
Cockroaches.
Yeah, I cannot stand cockroaches. Like, I can deal with bugs.
Yeah.
But cockroaches to me are just offensive, vile, filth-ridden creatures that I'm very jealous of the species' longevity over ours, because they're going to be here far longer than we will, but not if I have anything to do with it.
So is it true that you're out to annihilate all of the cockroaches?
No. Actually, to be honest, I try not to kill stuff. I actually, like, if I have a cockroach in my house, I'll try to catch it and release it outside. And last night I was at a costume party, and a friend of mine had very cleverly put these roach stickers all over her bathroom. And the bathroom was dark, and when you were in the bathroom, you didn't realize it until you're standing there using the toilet, and then you look down and you're like, Jesus Christ, and you're like kicking at the floor trying to get them, and then you realize they're stickers, and they're like all over the place, and you're just like, oh my goodness, like it got me so good.
I used to have a fear of heights. And I remember one summer in summer camp, I used to watch all of the other kids jump off the high dive into the swimming pool. And I had always wanted to jump off the high dive and be cool like all of the other kids. And so one day, after several weeks of watching this, I worked up the courage.
I don't remember ever watching a kid jump off the high dive and thinking, that's cool. I just saw a bunch of flailing limbs and screaming. I mean, screams of joy, but still, like, there was no grace about it.
Well, some of them did it quite gracefully. I mean, there were kids that would dive head first. I thought this is amazing. And what if I could do that? So one day I worked up the courage, and I slowly and carefully climbed up the high dive, and I tiptoed my way to the edge of the diving board, and I had worked up the confidence to make it that far. And I said, okay, it doesn't look that bad from the ground, but when you're up there and you're looking down at the pool, you feel like you are 300 feet in the air, and the distance between you and the water could kill you. Not necessarily the impact, but I could die if I fall off this thing the wrong way.
And
I
it
was
wasn't
petrified.
water, right?
Yeah, I was petrified, and I had never had this experience.
So you
before.
couldn't jump?
I couldn't. I stood up there for
You know
several
what they
minutes.
should have done? Because you would go up to the edge, you would look over, and then you would go, oh my God, I can't do this. You go to turn around, and there's a bunch of cockroach stickers all over the diving board.
Something happened where I found myself, the fear of not jumping outweighed the fear of jumping.
You mean the fear of being embarrassed climbing down and have everyone look at you, and everyone who's waiting in line, who's already started climbing the ladder, they're like, all right, everybody back up.
No, and then they start
back
yelling
down.
at you, and everyone in the pool is cheering, come on, jump, jump, jump. And I did it. And it wasn't so bad.
You know, it didn't occur to me until right now, and I'm sorry if this gets a little macabre, but that jump thing immediately made me think of people jumping off buildings. Like,
wow, yeah.
And like, is that crowd impulse to cheer someone on the same kind of impulse to cheer someone to, like, you know, do something awful?
And to take it to an even deeper level of macabre.
Like, I don't think I've actually ever seen that in real life, but it's at least a trope in movies. I don't know if people have actually done that. I'm sure it's happened.
Well, I'm now wondering if I have some deeply rooted subconscious learned behavior that I could jump off a building one day and it won't be that big of a deal.
Well, you're not really afraid of it because you have total control over whether that happens or not.
Totally.
Unless I throw you.
Or unless there are cockroach
Fun
stickers
fact,
behind me.
The term for throwing somebody out of a second-story window is defenestration. I don't think it applies to third-story windows, though.
Okay. Is that because, like, there's a chance that you won't die? You probably just break a few limbs in your back and then your neck, maybe, and become a...
I don't know. I just wanted to share a $7 word.
All right, fair enough.
So we're still talking about fears and, you know, cockroaches and stabbings with tiny bullets attached to syringes. I mean, that's what needles are, let's be honest, calling them like I see them. Those are, you know, kind of superficial fears, but, I mean, not to make light of your fears.
No, they're totally rational, and I have no idea why I have them. They're just there.
I think a lot of, I mean, that's the thing, is there's a lot of irrationality to fears.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I heard this term the other day on an NPR thing about spiders. The hosts were asking the researchers, who were both arachnologists.
Yes.
Like, if they ever had a fear of spiders, and one of them was like, yeah, I had a great big fear of spiders. And then I started studying them. And then it's just like, you know, that period from fear to fascination quickly evaporated. Or rather, it went by really quickly because the more you study a thing, the more you start to learn about the thing, especially about the fear itself. Like, you there's less of it because most of the, you know, it's cliche to say, but, you know, fear of the unknown is all fears are based in fear of the unknown. You're, you know, afraid of what's going to happen or what could happen. And those things that are invented in your mind tend to be much worse than how they actually are, or not even accurate at all. Along those lines, just the really fears for me, like the deep fears, are those like fears of like getting started and like doing something that I've had like a dream about for forever and just not, you know, motivating myself to, like, you know, it's like being afraid of my pencil's not being sharp enough, you know, it's being afraid of not having all my materials ready. Like, oh, I didn't do my homework. I don't feel prepared.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, totally. The fear of, well, not being prepared is, we talked about this in the last episode, or rather in episode 3, the fear of not getting it perfect, the perfectionism as a stopping ground for getting things done.
I've said it before, and I'll quote it again. it's a line from Zay Frank. He said, perfectionism may look good in his shiny shoes, but he's a bit of an asshole, and nobody invites him to their pool parties.
Yeah.
But yeah, that fear of doing so. And, like I mentioned homework, it's like homework is uncomfortable. I don't like doing homework. Because, like, every time when I was a kid, like, I imagine, like, my mom going, like, Cory, why didn't you do this? You're smarter than that. And then, my dad saying, you're smart enough, you'll figure it out, and just, like, always, like, and then when you do something, like, oh, you're so smart, and, like, praising you for being smart. When, like, being smart had nothing to do with it. And matter of fact, it made me lazy. It made me, whenever I encountered something, some task, whatever hurdles that your teachers or parents kind of put in your way to help you improve, they were too easy. And then you get good at jumping them, and then you get bored, and then you finally come across one that's actually difficult, and mom's not there to watch you not do your homework, and you're like, oh, screw this, and you go play video games because you rely on your intelligence to get you by.
Right.
And you end up having, at least this is the thing that's happened to me. I don't know if it's a feeling that other people have, but
well, and then we end up getting comfortable in not challenging ourselves because the challenge itself is scary. It's difficult, and it's not something we have any practice with. And it's easier just to not do anything, and we can get comfortable to the point to where anything, including going out and just doing a little bit of yard work is so painful that we just rather not go out at all.
Yeah, I think those fears of doing the things that you need to do, those have-tos, I got to get this done, I have to do this.
It used to be two words,
yeah.
And it's used differently now. It's become a single word in the English language that we just, I'm forced to do something.
At least in my childhood, like, those discomforts from having to do something difficult, like, really held me back. And not that I'm blaming my parents or anybody or society for saying that, for praising a skill that wasn't a skill, praising like a quality of being that doesn't really help you or can help you, but it helps a lot less than actually, having discipline and hard work.
Right, like just being praised for your intelligence.
Yeah. Not that I am any sort of intellectual giant. I tend to find that I am much stupider than the people that I admire.
I'll second that.
Yeah. But it isn't helpful. And that fear of discomfort of like having to do hard work is like, it's prolific, man. It's like, I've always bitched about comfort. I've always and I live in, I grew up in Florida. You grew up in Florida.
Yeah.
It's like, it's hot here.
It's hot here.
And I hated every second of it.
No, and we sweat.
Yeah.
And there's bugs.
Dude, and inside every building in Florida, the AC is like,
it's set to like
33 degrees
God.
Fahrenheit. It's just above freezing, and you get so used to that, and then you're never in discomfort. You're never, aside from having to walk to your air-conditioned car, you never really have to deal with any kind of discomfort like that. And one of the things about mindfulness and meditation that really helped me was getting over that discomfort of constantly bitching about comfort.
Yeah.
Like, I had to go to a monastery. And, they tell you where to stand. They tell you when to sleep. They tell you what to wear, what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, when to speak, when not to speak. They take away all of your choices. It's kind of like being in prison.
Well, and how long were
It's great.
You went to China, as the story goes, and how long were you there studying? And you went to various monasteries.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I've done several long-term stays. Well, not too long-term. The longest time I was in a monastery was about 2 months. Okay. And, we could leave every once in a while. And the Venerable Aoife, who is the nun who was running the Wooden Fish project that I was a staff member on, she would occasionally sneak the staff members out for pizza and beer. After like 3 weeks of like being in the monastery and handling all the students, you kind of need it. And she lets us out and she lets us cheat a little bit. The first time I was there as a student, they don't let you do that at all. You can't even leave.
Yeah.
And having to stand in the sun and just stand there. And they're like, all right, standing meditation. I'm like, crap, I didn't bring sunscreen today. And I'm like sitting there just burning, and there's nothing you can do. That is your existence. That is what you have to do. And eventually, for the first week, you hate it. Mm-hmm. But by the third week, you're cut out of wood, man. You're like nothing phases you, because since you no longer have the ability to do anything about it, you just suddenly stop bitching and it becomes the new norm. And after that, I have never once been bored waiting in line at the bank. like that's probably one of the best things about living in a monastery for a little while, or doing some hardcore meditation routines, and just kind of giving yourself these incredible limitations. Taking away your comforts and your choices, and then realizing, like, man, there's so much that I don't care about anymore. I don't care about sweating. Like, it just doesn't bother me anymore. I don't care about being uncomfortable because I've gone through it at least once. It's like, when you're a kid, and you skin your knee, and you're like, Mom, my knee! And
Is that
like
how you
you're
make fun of
panicking.
yourself when you were a kid?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, my impressions are impeccable. And you run up to your mom, and your mom's like, whatever, spits on a little rag and like wipes it off. I'm like, ew, gross. and mom's like, oh, did you have a boo-boo? Let me kiss your boo-boo. And like, looking back as an adult, I'm like, that's disgusting. How is that helping? Your mouth is filled with bacteria. Don't get your mouth anywhere near my boo-boo.
There was one story that you tell when you were trekking through southern China, going from one place to another with a group of students, and there was one monastery that was it 1,000 years old? Or it was built in about 1400?
No, we were in one monastery that was like 400 years. No, it was built in 400 CE, and we were there for like 2 or 3 days. We were supposed to be there for the month. And then I think the second day, the day we got there, we're like, hey, everybody, welcome to the monastery. We're getting kicked out. And we're like, what? We just traveled all the way across the world. And we got, some paperwork happened in the Chinese government. You can't have they don't have the right to free assembly like we do in the United States. And so you have to have a permit if you gather in large groups, particularly for the religious reasons. And it's a bit of a difficult thing. So we had to move. We went to another monastery. They flew us across the country, and the new monastery was built in like 1400 CE. So it was
newer.
Were
the amenities nicer? Was it?
No. But this monastery was beautiful, but it was not nearly as clean as the other one. But that ended up being a mark in its favor, because I learned so much about humility. And speaking of fears, the very first day we moved into that monastery, we moved into the dorms, and this building obviously had not been used in some time, and so there are no doors on each of the rooms, just a screen with a bunch of holes in it. Out to on our side, the male side was facing the mountain, and the female side was facing the valley, and you had to pick your bunk, and I was one of the last people up. Checking this room, full. And I'm already seeing people going, ah! And there's like bugs just everywhere in these rooms.
They all sound like your own childhood self.
Yeah. There was a bunch of crazy Corys up on the mountain.
Right.
And so I get to the second to the last room, and they had a space. And so I'm like, all right, I'll sleep in here. And we didn't have any bugs in our room.
No bugs in the room.
Everybody else had like bugs galore. And they had to the first thing everyone had to do was to clean out the rooms before we even put our stuff in.
Yeah.
Our room, totally bug-free. Hit the bug jackpot.
Or lack thereof.
Yes. And to make a long story short, I don't remember if it was, while we were cleaning the room or if it was while we were sleeping. And one of the roommates just suddenly starts screaming. And we all look up. What? Get the light. Turn on the light. And he's just like, trying to throw everything off of it. But he's like, spider. And we're like, okay. And like on his bed, like the width of the two of my hands put together, reaching out. Like I'm 6'3". I have very large hands. And like, for those of you who can't see this, there was a gigantic spider.
Wow.
It was larger than my face. It was like a face hugger from Alien. And somebody was, get a shoe. And Gutorm, who to this day is one of my most inspired teachers, who has inspired me in a great deal. Gutorm, if you're listening, peace. I love you, brother. He calmly sits up and puts his hand on one of us. He's like, you have taken a vow not to kill things. And we're like, oh yeah, it's day one. We were already planning arachnid murder. And so we had to kind of shuffle the spider out of the room, back out onto the mountain. And for the next 3 days, we didn't have any bugs.
Yeah.
They eventually figured it out and came back.
Right. The spider did all of the work for you guys.
It did. He was a great bodhisattva. So are you afraid of spiders?
I don't go out of my way to pick them up. If I see one, I respect it. I leave it where it is. But I suppose I could say I would have a fear of being bitten by a spider. I don't know much about them, but to me they look a little creepy.
Are you afraid of spiders?
No, not necessarily.
Anybody else afraid of spiders? No? A little bit? You guys afraid of spiders?
I would assume your fear of spiders stems from your fear of needles.
Or even tiny ones.
I'm sorry?
I have my respect for even tiny ones.
Oh, excellent. He's got respect for even tiny spiders.
It's the fear of what if it's venomous? No.
Yeah.
Well, I think not knowing is what makes everyone afraid.
Yeah, fear of it, whether or not the spider is venomous, it seems to be a logical fear.
Yeah.
But I have some interesting spider facts for you guys.
Ooh, spider facts.
Yeah.
So this brings us to the next segment of our show, spider facts.
Oh, yes, spider facts. Always interesting.
Yep, go for it.
Yeah, so most people are really afraid of spiders, particularly like black widows and brown recluse spiders. Everyone thinks that they're venomous, particularly deadly, which most of the time it isn't. If you get bit on the hand or something, like you're probably going to survive. You should go to the hospital anyway, but it's unlikely for spiders to bite you. There was some research done where an arachnologist, a grad student, would put a black widow spider on his or her arm and poke it and prod at it and attempt to get the spider to bite them.
That sounds like a smart idea.
Apparently so. Academia is a wonderful place.
Yeah, I'm not going back to that world.
There is the Darwin Awards are strong there.
Yes, absolutely.
No, but apparently this researcher could not get the spider to bite them. And the only time they could get the spider to bite them is if they were wearing silicone gloves and actually squeezed the spider. They could push it, they could prod it, they could hold its leg, keeping it from escaping, and the spiders wouldn't bite. It was only when you squeezed the spiders that they would bite. And then when they did bite, 60% of the time, there was no venom. And none at all. And when there was, the venom was actually a very small dose of it, because it turns out the spiders have control over whether or not they can release venom with their bite.
Oh, that's really fascinating.
Yeah, they don't use it for offense. I'm sorry, they don't use it for defense. It's an offensive weapon.
Okay.
They bite the bug and then they wait for it to die because the venom takes some time to take hold. So as a defensive weapon, it's pretty crappy.
Yeah, it's a terrible defensive mechanism.
You're getting squished right then, the venom isn't going to help you.
It's much easier just to run away if you can.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, or spit some sticky stuff into your predator's eyes to then evade attack and blind your foe.
Do you ever hear that thing about spiders crawling in your mouth while you're sleeping?
Yeah, I've heard about that. What's that about?
That's a total fabrication.
That's not a thing that happens.
Spiders have unless bugs are coming out of your mouth, they have no interest in going in there.
Was it the average human swallows so many spiders within their lifetime?
It's just a complete fabrication.
It's completely made up. Yeah. You guys with me? Like, you remember? Have you heard that?
I think it was born out of another factor that we said, like, you're always, no matter where you are on the planet, you are no more than 4 feet away from a spider.
Is that's bullshit?
No. There are that many spiders that is entirely possible.
You mean
and
if they were to spread out evenly? Like when they say the thing about like nematodes. That
I think there are so many that what's up?
Ocean, frozen tundra.
Yes, there are spiders in the Arctic. Frozen oceans, you're good. And then there's those the spiders of the sea.
Oh, crabs and
crabs are spiders of the sea.
Yeah,
the chicken of the sea, and they got spiders of the sea.
Yo, this is spider facts, bro. Like, let's get this straight here. Who's dropping the knowledge?
Yeah, man. But since we live in South Florida, it's entirely possible that the 4 feet rule is just totally bunk, and it's got to be like half a foot.
Totally, yeah. We were sweeping the floors before the party this evening, and there were spiders galore in every corner, every crevice.
There are at least 1,000 spiders between you and me right now.
Yeah, there were 3 of them right where you were sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got questions and fan mail and live Q&A.
Yeah. Does anybody in the audience have any questions about fear?
Or do you have any spider facts? Or facts about anything else?
Come close so that the mic can pick up your audio. Come join us.
Or if you don't want to, we'll just repeat your question.
Yeah, that works too. You guys can just be comfy over there in the cushions. That looks nice.
You can ask us questions about anything we talked about or anything you're thinking about. What are you afraid of?
Gosh, that's a good question, you know? I don't know. I don't know that I'm afraid of very many things. Truly, I don't. I have to work on that, perhaps.
I wonder if a person who doesn't know what they're afraid of has how much time have you spent considering that question?
I've considered it, but maybe I have to revisit it. I don't know. I just don't. Cockroaches, that's probably the only animal or insect.
You share my fear of cockroaches?
I do not like cockroaches.
Do not like cockroaches.
I don't want them
Agreed.
anywhere
And you know what?
near my
I think that you and I don't need to ask anybody else about that. I think that opinion is canon now for the rest of the planet.
Yes, indeed. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's weird because like I think of fear as something that is intrinsic to our being. It's something that's like necessary to help you grow and move forward. And oftentimes I've been in your position and have not known what I was afraid of, and sometimes I just needed the experience to know that I was actually afraid of something. Like it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I realized that I was afraid to talk to women.
Wow.
Yeah, like it wasn't like, I mean, I never thought anything of it. I talk to women all the time, but like when I decide like I'm gonna go like try to get a phone number, suddenly like my wheeze get neek. Or my
Wheeze get neek.
Yes.
That's staying on.
Yeah.
Wheeze get neek.
Right.
I used to have an irrational fear of people in business suits. And
That fear is not irrational.
no, it was serious because
Those people are not millennials.
Oh, yes,
Non-millennials are not to be trusted.
right, those people. I used to own a business, an advertising business, and one of the primary ways we would get clients is by going to networking events, and other people would dress up and they would look all businessy and serious and stuff, and I had these thoughts that would run through my head, like, who am I that I could like take up these important people's time, and who are they going to think about me if I try to introduce myself? And I would just get so caught up in what I was afraid they were going to judge about me that I would go to an entire networking event for hours and maybe speak to one person that looked like me.
You're racist against suits.
Yeah. If you can consider suits to be a race, then yes, I would.
Maybe like a tyrist.
A tyrist?
A tyrist.
Oh,
I would be a
yes,
tyrist.
yes.
Yeah, we'll go with
That's
that.
great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
What is your guys' opinion on the most recent, well, not most recent, it's like an acronym that's been floating around for the last couple of years, FOMO, fear of missing out.
Oh, what is our opinion on fear of missing out?
Fear of missing out is a real thing. It's now being studied hardcore in the field of psychology, and what FOMO mostly pertains to is our smartphone addiction and our social media addiction. It's a combination of
You think
the two.
so? I think it's a broader term. It really just, I think that's what some people talk about when they talk about internet addiction.
Yeah,
but
the term has been coming to light more often
because of that. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it generally refers to that, and a lot of the studies have to do with the fear of missing out on what's happening with your friends on social media, which is why we have this constant tick of reaching into our pockets and looking at our smartphones just to check notifications or to scroll through the feed, because if I sit at home, have you ever tried to leave the house without your smartphone?
Yeah.
On
I
purpose.
I call it cell phone detention.
Cell phone detention.
Constantly.
Yes.
I actually did that yesterday when I went to lunch and I left my phone at home accidentally, and I had gotten literally a foot out my front door, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot my phone. Brian's going to be wanting me to contact him.
I did.
No,
actually.
I'm like, I've gone too far. I can't turn back. And I left without my phone.
Yeah.
But-
Did you experience any sort of existential dread or anxiety as a result of not having phone?
No, because the deliciousness of Chick-fil-A sated all of my fears.
Did you have those on skewers?
My good buddy Brian Kerr, he's a Miami local, and he showed me the secret way to the Chick-fil-A in the Dadeland Mall from where we live, that we can avoid all of the mall and all of the traffic by coming into the secret entrance in the back and then parking right next to where the
Wait,
Chick-fil-A
you know about
is.
this too?
Oh,
What?
yes. Are you a Miami local as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Chick-fil-A because I don't eat meat, but yes, I definitely know about it. And it's a straight beeline right there.
So even vegetarians
Are you
know
afraid
about
of
the
meat?
shortcut to Chick-fil-A.
Are you afraid of
Is it a
meat?
sponsor at this point? You've
No.
said the name like 10
I
times.
think,
Are you
yeah.
experienced FOMO?
We're going to have to bleep that out.
Yeah. I think the
I want to hug the meat.
hug the meat.
You want to hug the meat. Is that
Yeah.
that's
I'm
not
glad
like
that-
tree hugging. That's like, because then that'd be like hugging dead trees.
Yeah, I like that term.
Weird.
That's a good one. We should
and kinky.
that should be a thing. I wasn't going to take it there, man, but you
Yo,
said
this
it.
is mindfulness of doom.
Yeah. Oh,
And-
we're totally going to have a kink episode.
Yeah, and
Future content.
we're all gonna die, so let's enjoy the pleasure.
Yeah, we're all going to die. So go jump someone's bones.
Yeah. Hopefully, when they're alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is Halloween.
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
Halloween.
Good
it's
save.
okay.
Good
Yeah,
save, bro. Good save.
Yeah. No, you mentioned about FOMO, and I kind of I understand the term more. At least I think of it more broadly of like not just so much social media or using your phone, but when you can't say no to social outings, when you're afraid that if you don't go, you'll miss the. If you stay at home, that you'll miss all the good times, and it's like I think it's rooted. I think FOMO is rooted in the fear of not knowing, the fear of the unknown, and like, and also the I guess how do I put it? As the it's right on the tip of my tongue. It's right there, Brian. I'm about to lose it. Oh no, Brian!
I'm going to
losing
take it from here.
I'm losing it.
But is fascination something that can cure FOMO? Because with most fears, there is a fear of the unknown, and when you get educated, when you get knowledge, and you get comfortable with the experience of whatever you're afraid of, then suddenly the fear subsides. But is it possible that experiencing more cool things that you might be missing out on will cure you of the fear of missing out, or is it that you actually have to practice not being at cool things or with cool people or doing awesome, incredible things to cure that
I
fear?
don't know. Like part of me thinks of it as like a self-control thing, but I know that that's naive.
Yeah. George Michael, do you want to take it?
Yeah, what's your thought on FOMO?
Honestly, I think the fear of missing out is something that wouldn't be influenced by knowledge. Like, you can't really educate yourself on missing out. I think it comes down to more like a statistical probability thing. Like, what are the chances that I go out and something life-changing or important happens? Like, you meet someone that, I don't know, it could be something as simple as a new career opportunity or a new client, or maybe you meet the love of your life, or maybe you meet the person who's going to kill you. Right?
I like that you took it there, my friend. Yeah.
There's so many different levels to it, right? And it's something that you can't really educate yourself. It's just, it's a chance, right? It's fear of missing out is a fear of taking a risk, essentially. It's a calculated risk.
So you're talking about opportunity cost.
Sort of, right? So you'd have to weigh it out every time you're going to go do something, and whether or not you didn't decline going out somewhere or doing an activity. But there's so many intangibles, like I said, all those little things that you have no control over and no idea of knowing whether any of those things are going to happen, that it's hard to really quantify whether or not you're missing out. And just because it's hard to quantify, you already feel like you're missing out.
It's a fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Once again, yeah.
But it's a fear of the unknown that cannot be cured by knowledge.
Right.
It goes down to probability. It's luck.
Well, that puts us in a tough spot.
Yeah, but I don't know if the fear is based on like not getting that thing that you think that you need so much as it is like a social thing of like I want to be included. I don't want to be left behind. Like, we're a social species. I don't want to call us a herd species, but we pretty much are. We need each other, and some of the things that are the worst punishments is solitary confinement. People even within 3 days of I mean, I know I'm a big fanboy of Michael Stevens from Vsauce. I make a lot of links to his. Yeah, he did a show about solitary confinement on YouTube Red, which was really interesting. And he was like stuck in he started to go crazy in there and started to like try to leave the cell before it was time and didn't. He was really confused. He couldn't think straight. He couldn't do simple math anymore. And it's just, that's kind of a terrible thing. And I think that human beings intrinsically know that even if they are more the loner type, they still need society. They still need people to be around, to have a good mirror for. And I think fear of missing out might be related to that, an overactive desire to be part of society.
Everything is always as it should be. And I think that I said it so many times that I actually really
so you said, so just for the mic real quick, so you were talking about having a fear of missing out.
Yes.
And then, I'm sorry, what was the phrase you just used? The
Everything is as it should be.
Yeah, the mantra of everything is as it should be. Right. So my question, not to interrupt for just a minute, was define the word should.
I don't know. I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
I don't like to should all over myself, though.
Yeah. No, I don't think anybody likes doing that. Yeah, I like that phrase, everything is as it should be, because even if something bad is happening, even sometimes if it's something terrible or, like something awful, like the universe is something that's happening everywhere, and everything that happens is an expression of it. And our judgments of whether something is good or bad, or good for society or bad for society, is generally what we talk about when we say that, like, oh, that was such a horrible tragedy. And it's like, yeah, but given a long enough time frame, we're all gonna, our society isn't going to be remembered in 1 billion years. It won't, none of us will be here, and nobody will remember. And entropy is a real thing, and information loss will happen. So when you say everything is as it should be, it's to me, it's comforting on that level of grand universal scales where, like, sometimes shitty things happen and sometimes good things happen, and our purpose in life is to live it and to swim in it and to enjoy what we can from it, despite the circumstances, because we don't have a lot of control over those things.
Not at all. And I think once you realize that you don't have a lot of control, it actually changes everything.
You're right. It's liberating, isn't it?
It's entirely liberating.
Right. Yeah. And just like when I was mentioning at the monastery, it's just like when someone finally takes away all of your choices, you are free. Yes. You are free in more ways than you ever thought before, because you can turn inwards and then really deal with those things that are bothering you. And I think this is what, to kind of bring the conversation back around, is to mention that the use of mindfulness is one of those things where when you are calm enough and you pay attention to what's going on inside your own body and how you interact with your fears, how you behave, and sometimes those things are not up to your choice and are just based on your past experiences, and they become second nature. And if you analyze them and spend some time thinking about them, you can overcome your fears in some cases. Yeah. And I think that mindfulness is very useful in that sense. So, yeah. Well, thank you guys very much for your questions. I think it's time to thank our real fake sponsors.
A tremendous thank you to Oversized Chinese Mountain Spiders for supporting our podcast. Oversized Chinese mountain spiders have been gripping our faces and eating our bugs for the last several weeks and have left a huge opening for us to set up pretty much anywhere undisturbed by cockroaches.
This podcast is also brought to you by the death of all cockroaches. The death of all cockroaches, it would be a nice thing.
Don't forget Tony's brand cockroach stickers.
Oh, yes. Tony's brand cockroach stickers, available in all Halloween bathroom stores near you.
This podcast also brought to you by Bitching About Discomforts. Bitching About Discomforts has been really taking its toll on people's attention because it's not something that we want to hear.
Yeah. This podcast is also brought to you by the Chinese Zodiac. The Chinese Zodiac, no matter how many times you interrupt it, it keeps coming back around.
Very good. Well, if you found our show to be valuable, and
we've got one more sponsor.
one more sponsor.
Oh
Go
yeah,
ahead.
you can't stop this sponsor train. This real fake sponsors of Mindfulness of Doom brought to you by Needles, the cousins to knives.
Oh yes,
Brothers to bullets.
Oh yes, brothers to bullets, needles to knives, cousins to knives. Anyone else have any fake sponsors they would like to shout out? No. These people don't want to sponsor us.
well that's
All right,
unfortunate.
they have come for free entertainment and have not contributed to the comedy.
Well, they're gonna get the pitch anyway.
That's great. So
If you like what we do here on our podcast and you'd like to support us, we now have a Patreon page, which can be found at patreon.com/mindfulness of doom. And you can give as little as $1 a month to help support Mindfulness of Doom, Brian and Cory, in doing what we love and sharing our knowledge, wisdom, and experience with you.
That's excellent. We've actually just recorded a video for that the other day that tells you a little bit of story about Buddhist history, and perhaps that will entice you to go check out the video on that page and learn about begging in monasteries. Yeah. Go visit us on Patreon and help support the show. We really appreciate it. We do this for free and we do it for fun. And if people like what we do and want to throw us a couple bucks for coffee or something, it helps us do the show even more.
Yep, and we do go through a lot of coffee, so please help us with the coffee. And if you find that you don't have the financial means at the moment, you can help us tremendously by finding us on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, or any other podcast platform where podcasts of all quality can be found, and give us a rating and a review. It will help other listeners like you find the show.
Now, your review would be phenomenal, and we would love you forever. If you gave us a review of 5 stars if you liked it, and 4 stars if you thought it was crap.
Actually, if you did not take the time to rate and review us, we would take that as you hate our guts and we should go rot under a boulder somewhere.
Yes, your professional courtesy of not rating us 3 stars or under is appreciated.
We have a website where you can listen to all of our episodes. It is www.mindfulnessofdoom.com.
Yes, and if you like our content here and would like something a little more heady, feel free to try out the blog on our website, mindfulnessofdoom.com.
Cory spends many evenings toiling away on very dramatic prose for the sheer entertainment and education of our listeners. And if you'd like to throw him a read, he would really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's an inordinate amount of time that I spend deciding on verbiage.
Yeah, it probably eats up about 3 out of the 5 days of our working schedule.
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic.
Yeah, we should really stop doing that. We need to find paying work and actually, feed ourselves and our families.
It would be nice to eat.
Yeah, but we're just having coffee tonight unless somebody decides to support us.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for listening to the 5th episode of Mindfulness of Doom. Thank you so much. We love all of you. You all are fantastic. And even if you don't like us, we still love you.
We invite you to like, subscribe, and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever. Have suggestions, music, or artwork for the show? Want to sponsor our podcast? Find our contact page and links to the items we talked about in this episode at www.mindfulnessofdoom.com. Become a supporter of our podcast at patreon.com/mindfulnessofdoom and get access to exclusive content that's not on the show.
This podcast is recorded in Miami, Florida. It is written, recorded, and edited by Brian Lemmerman and Cory Hardacre. Our music is provided by Pallet Town and Suitcase Music. They can be found at soundcloud.com/pallettown and at suitcasemusic.bandcamp.com. All poorly thought out opinions are ours. Nothing you hear in this podcast should be construed as professional medical advice. Go see a therapist, all of you.
Self-discovery.